Hallowed ground, the story and spirit of Alabama National Cemetery. We gathered today not merely to speak of a place, but to honor a promise etched into the soil of Montevallo, Alabama, a promise that those who served this nation with courage and conviction will never be forgotten. This is not just a cemetery, this is a sacred ground. This is where silence speaks volumes, where every headstone tells a story, where the wind carries the echoes of valor.
We hear that sound and you know what it means, a somber song to remember those who served and sacrificed for our freedoms. Today, hundreds of people gathered at the Alabama National Cemetery in Montevallo to remember our heroes.
When you hear that all gave some, that's Veterans Day.
God bless America.
But when you hear that some gave all, that's Memorial Day.
One promise that we should all keep is that we will never forget the sacrifices of so many of our fellow Americans.
Before this land bore marble memory, it bore history. Long before the first flag was raised here, this land was home to the Muskogee, the Creek tribes who lived, hunted, and prayed in these woods. In the late 1800s, the land changed hands, changed names, and changed purpose. It became farmland, then pasture, then a quiet stretch of Alabama countryside. But in 2003, Congress passed the National Cemetery Expansion Act. It recognized that Alabama, home to one of the highest per capita populations of veterans in the nation, needed a final resting place worthy of its heroes.
In many of these places, you will find that it's the young people that do the dying in these wars. Just remember, they gave up two lives, one to our nation and the one they would have lived. I'm calling on the Veterans Administration, American Legion, the DAV, the VFW, the AMVETS, and all country-loving Americans to double down and reinvigorate patriotism in America.
The Department of Veterans Affairs purchased 479 acres of this land, and in 2009, the first burial took place. Since then, more than 9,000 veterans and their family members have been laid to rest here.
For me, ladies and gentlemen, it wouldn't be Memorial Day if I didn't hear these words. No greater love than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends.
My home, sweet home.
This is the third national cemetery in Alabama, but it is the first built to serve the central region of the state. It is a place of peace, of permanence, and of profound respect. As you walk these grounds, you'll find more than headstones. You'll find the avenue of flags, where Old Glory flies in solemn tribute. You'll find the memorial walkway, where plaques and monuments whisper the names of warriors and wars. You'll find the committal shelters, where families say goodbye with folded flags and final salutes. You'll find a wall for cremated remains and rows upon rows of white marble markers, each one aligned with military precision, each one a chapter in the American story. This cemetery was designed not just for burial, but for remembrance. It is a place where school children come to learn, where families come to reflect, and where veterans come to find peace. Let me tell you about one of the men buried here. His name was Staff Sergeant James Jim Holloway, a native of Birmingham, Alabama. He served in the U.S. Army during the Vietnam War. He was a radio operator in the 1st Cavalry Division, and he saw combat in La Drang Valley, the first major battle between the U.S. forces and the North Vietnamese Army.
It was pretty bad. We kind of walked right into an ambush. And we hit the ground. Tried to look around for trees. There was elephant grass out there about 3 foot high. And to look over that, snappers could pick you up real easily and let you have it.
Does it frighten you now to think about it?
Yes, it does. Yeah, it was pretty bad to listen to your friends crying out for help, not being able to do a thing. We just couldn't do anything. We were all pinned down. And,
Are you writing home about it just now?
yes, I'm writing my father right now.
What are you saying?
Well, I'm just trying to give him the facts of what happened. Not much else can do. It's over with. Guess you got to forget it now.
Do you think you'll ever be able to forget it?
No, I won't.
The worst was still to come. At the base of the hills, the cavalry shifted and probed, calling on its 400 helicopters to keep the enemy off balance. And all the time, a steady pounding by piston Sky Raiders and jet bombers.
Jim was just 19 when he jumped from a helicopter into a firefight that would last 3 days. He carried wounded men to safety. He called in air support under fire, and he refused to leave his post until every man in his unit was accounted for. He came home with a Bronze Star and a Purple Heart, but like many veterans, he carried invisible wounds. He spent years mentoring young soldiers, volunteering at the VA, and speaking at high schools about the cost of war. When he passed in 2015, his family chose Alabama National Cemetery. They said he wanted to be with his brothers. Today, if you walk to Section 4, Row 12, Grave 8, you'll find his name. And if you listen closely, you might just hear the rustle of his story in the trees. What is the legacy of a place like this? It is not just in the names carved in stone. It is in the silence between the names. It is in the folded flags handed to trembling hands. It is in the bugle call of taps echoing across the hills. The Alabama National Cemetery reminds us that freedom is not a theory, it is a sacrifice. It is not a slogan, it is a service. And it is not a guarantee, it is a gift, paid for in full by those who rest here. This cemetery will serve veterans for the next 50 years. That means generations not yet born will walk these paths. They will read these names and they will ask, who was she and what did he do? And we must be ready to answer. We must tell them that these were the men and women who stood between tyranny and liberty, who crossed oceans and deserts and jungles so that others might live free, who wore the uniform not for glory, but for duty. So what do we owe them? We owe them more than wreaths in December and flags in May. We owe them our vigilance, our participation, our unity. We owe them a country worthy of their sacrifice. Let us teach our children not just to recite the Pledge of Allegiance, but to understand it. Let us care for our veterans not just with words, but with actions. Let us remember that patriotism is not just a performance, it's a practice. And let us never forget that every freedom we enjoy was bought with a price. As we close, I ask you to look around. Look at the roads, look at the flags, and look at the families. This is not just a cemetery, this is a covenant between the living and the dead, between the past and future, between a nation and its defenders. Let us keep that covenant. Let us honor it, not just with speeches, but with service. Not just with monuments, but with memory. And not just with the ceremony, but with citizenship. And let us say with full hearts and lifted heads, rest well, heroes. We remember, and we are grateful, and we will carry your legacy forward. Thank you, God bless you, and may God forever bless the United States of America.